Parents of Reddit, what is most ducked up secret you are hiding from your children? My parents told me my sister is adopted. They didn't tell her. She's 34. BTW help, what do I do? Buy the whole family DNA test kits for Christmas and watch the world burn. That we're divorced. Years before they came along. Spouse and I decided it wasn't working out and got divorced. Years later. Things still weren't working out fantastically for both of us. So we got back together. Never did get around to getting remarried though. That I don't actually enjoy watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. My 2-year-old would be devastated because that's our show. That we don't go to bed the same time as they do. I never actually took his nose. It stayed on his face the whole time. In fact, it has never once left his face. Even though I have told him that I took it countless times. I even showed him the tip of my thumb as evidence of the theft. Sorry you had to read that. But it feels really good to come clean. Edit. Thanks for all the responses, you some. I will tell him the truth eventually. But have to make sure mom is on board. 2. For those of you condemning me. Your words weigh heavy. But honesty, much like a fire at the circus, is intense. Adoptive parent of 3 kids, 2 of which are biological siblings and cousins. Found out a year after the adoption that the biological parents were half siblings who shared the same dad. The bio parents found out after they had the first child and proceeded to have another. The kids are now 16 and 13 respectively and have zero clue that they are a product of incest. Unfortunately, their biological grandpa just passed away. So there very well could be a big reveal coming in the near future. A colleague of mine has a friend who hid from her 8-year-old daughter that she, the 8-year-old, would die within a few years because of a terminal illness she got. I can see this. My daughter was just born with a rare congenital heart defect. She'll be aware she has it as she grows, but at some point we're going to have to tell her she'll be lucky to live to 40. That conversation is many years away. But it churns my stomach thinking about the burden she'll carry. My wife and I each have a child from a previous marriage. Both of our ex-spouses were abusive cheaters. Both children still adore and idolize their other parent, and we just keep smiling and nodding. This probably isn't the type of thing OP was asking. But it is a secret that we will maintain for years. Edit. Thanks everyone for the replies and commiserative stories. Makes us feel better that we are not the only ones keeping things like this a secret. My mom kept it a secret that the woman I was named after, her mom, my grandma, was stabbed to death by my uncle when my mom was 18. I always suspected my grandma had a tragic death because of how my mom would avoid talking about it. But I didn't know it was that tragic. My son was planned. But after separating from his father when my son was 8 months old and having basically nowhere to go, no way to actually take care of us on our own. Many times I thought about the possibility of dropping him off at the hospital and skipping town. I never did. And he is 8 now and we are very happy. I just want to say this is a completely normal thought, but it's your actions that count. We all have thoughts we aren't proud of, but you persevered and that's what matters. Don't feel ashamed of what you didn't do. Be proud of what you did. Not a parent, but my parents held this secret away from me for a long time. When I was 3-4, my dad volunteered at a baseball park to shuttle people back and forth on a golf cart. Well, one night he didn't come home till really late and I went to hi but stopped to see that he looked scared and distraught. He is normally a rough and tough kind of guy and has a big heart. So I asked him what was wrong. But he said nothing and that he was fine. I believed him and went to bed. I woke up the next morning to see that our cousin, who doubles as our babysitter, was at our house but neither of my parents were. I asked where they went and she said they went to the morning service of church and not the afternoon service. Again, I believed her and never questioned any of it. Flash forward 10 years, my mom told me what really happened. He was shuttling some guy back to the parking lot when the guy put a knife to my dad's neck. He then proceeded to take my dad behind a dumpster and raped him. So when he got home he waited for everyone to go to sleep and then tried to heal himself by overdosing on painkillers. My mom woke up in the middle of the night, realizing that he wasn't in bed. She found him in the bathroom on the floor motionless and called 911 where was sent to the hospital where was treated. He is thankfully still doing strong. I don't know where I would have been without him. Edit. First, thanks for my first silver kind stranger. Second, thank you all for the support. He is doing a hell of a lot better and is back to his former self. I make sure to cherish my memories with him a lot more, like hunting and fishing. Again, thanks y'all. Never expected this to blow up. Edit 2. Thanks for my first gold as well, kind stranger. For those of you wondering, they never caught the rapist unfortunately. I don't know every detail as I didn't want to pressure my mom more as she was telling me the story. After reading a bunch of these, I feel pretty good that my most dug up secret is that I eat most of their Halloween Easter parade candy when they are at school. Not a parent but a child. This last Christmas I found out that not only was my mom had already been previously married and divorced, but my dad had a kid before he married my mom. So I have a half brother or sister that I have never met. The real kicker was I found it out from my new sister-in-law who had someone did some digging. Found out. Assumed that I must already know and brought it up out of the blue on Christmas Eve while we were baking cookies. My daughter knows that her grandparents are getting a divorce. She doesn't know that it's because Grandpa, 72, decided to knock up a 23-year-old. We will talk about it once she's older. But I don't want to normalize that relationship for a pre-adolescent. Edit. This is my father-in-law. He's definitely not rich. In fairly impressive shape for a dude pulling social security. And I am happily ignorant as to the status of his erections. It's a small town story with a ducked up single mom and a old man that hasn't experienced much emotional growth since being drafted for service in Vietnam. These people would never end up together if they were emotionally healthy and didn't have control issues. I am definitely going to do my best to explain to my daughter. But she's 9 and emotionally overwhelmed by the very idea of the divorce. When she comes to me to talk about it, having processed the idea, then I will explain the situation more fully. My husband has already told his dad that our family and his new family won't be getting together for a barbecue anytime in the foreseeable future. Edit 2. A lot of you dudes are assuming a lot about 23. I would remind you that we are talking about small town. Single mama. Daddy issues. Rural deep south. Grandpa ducking 23. Y'all are a bunch of optimists. Before I found out I was pregnant with my first child, I took a shit ton of pills. I think it's the closest I've ever come to suicide. I had always dealt with anxiety and depression. I feel like the extra hormones put me over the edge. I found out about a week later that I was pregnant. Surprise. I was terrified the entire pregnancy that something would be wrong with him. Luckily, he was completely healthy and is an incredibly smart child. I've never told anyone. I feel so guilty. When I was a teenager, I'm 22 now, I found out that when my mom had me my dad did not believe I was his kid. He even demanded a paternity test so he didn't have to pay child support on me because he really thought my mom had cheated on him during a business trip she went on. I don't know why, but a paternity test was never done. Or maybe it was and I've never been told, but it explained why I felt so distant with my dad for the first 10 years of my life. He always favored my older sister more when I was younger and called her dad his little girly TC. I felt like he hated me and this explained why. Today he's the best dad ever. I don't know if something shifted or what, but me and him are extremely close now and he loves me endlessly. He's been such a great dad, especially when I was suicidal in high school and had really bad depression and anxiety. My mom's a little bit bipolar, so I've always been in a toxic household. And he was the only one to come and pick me up and just be there for me. Edit. Also, I look a lot like my dad. Even get asked if me and my sister are twins all the time. So I think the whole paternity thing was just in spite of an ugly divorce. Edit. Whoa. Thank you so much for the gold, kind stranger. I genuinely had no idea my comment would get so much interaction. I felt like it was so minute in the sea of other comments. But it's honestly really reassuring to hear this isn't something I've experienced alone and to hear other people's stories. Thank you all. I'm the child, 48F. But my father told me my mother was dead all throughout my childhood and everyone in the family, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, stepmother, supported the lie. Not because my mother was on drugs or abusive, or a criminal, or even a bad person. Just because they had a huge argument one night and she went to stay with a friend. Without me. So he decided she would never be allowed to be in my life again. Ever. He wrote her off. On my 18th birthday. She called our house and asked to speak with me. So. I found out the truth. There's tuna in the fridge, but no matter how much he meows he can't have it because I know he'll just sniff it and meow for something else. That I've been changing every clock in the house on New Year's Eve to 3 hours early. At 9 PM we celebrate the new year. Then hang out for an hour. He thinks he's breaking every rule and has a great time. Now that he's turning 11 this will never happen again. With phones and being somewhat smarter. Lol. I'm the child of a parent that hid something horrible until I was 27. One day when my parents has a domestic dispute. My dad called me just to get back at my mom. He said, "Do you want to know something about your whore mother? She slept with over 30 guys during our first 2 years of marriage." I just sat down and started stuttering. He said, "You know how people have always said you look different than the rest of the kids?" I said, "Yeah. That's because I'm not your dad. Your mom slept with my best friend and you were conceived. Another thing. Your brother, the one just younger than me, I'm the oldest, belongs to my brother." My mom just bawled in the background without denying it. I just laughed. And then I went into 2 years of therapy. Edit, 1 word younger from you get misspelling. I'm hiding a lot of things. I used to be a stripper for 10 years. Growing up in an abusive house. I partied hard and used to be part of Nick and Montreal club scene. That I was kidnapped and taken to another country. There's a lot of things. Now I'm just a boring accountant mom to everyone. No one has any clue what I've been through. Crazy what your kids don't know about you. Grandpa's not their grandpa. I didn't find out until I was 30 that my dad adopted me and my mom was married to someone else when I was born. My 15-year-old was looking at those DNA kits in the store. I wonder what surprises it would find. Oh. More than you think. Sweetie. I'll tell them someday. Just not what the right time is. Then again. That's what my parents told me when I asked why they never told me about bio dad until he reached out to me and blew their secret. My father found out when he was in his 40s that his father was not his biological father. His mother, my grandmother, literally cheated on her husband with the milkman. I'm a surrogate parent to my 2 siblings. The most dark secret I've had to keep is that while both our parents are abusive, my father is the true reason why they're messed up. He's insanely sneaky and manipulative. He's cheated on my mother for years with other women, gaslighting her into believing she's crazy. The kids don't know because they're kids. They think our dad is an angel. It's not ducked up. But my daughter doesn't know I'm an atheist. She goes to a Christian private school. Going to be an interesting conversation when she is a little older. She is starting to put it together. She just asked me the other day that why does her mom say a prayer for Jesus before bedtime and I say the Green Lantern oath instead. It was a secret until recently my mom told me. When she and my dad got divorced. Things were very, very messy. And my dad would do shitty things to dodge paying for my care. He ended up owing my mom a couple $1,000s. And my mom was ready to sue. But instead of getting the lawyers involved, and because she knew my dad was not a healthy person to be in my life, she offered him a deal: keep the money, but relinquish custody officially. I'd still get to see him if and when I wanted, but he would give up all legal rights as a guardian. Because he hated paying my mom that much. He took 2K over me. Not a life-changing, earth-shattering secret. It's just revealing to know my dad values money more than me. Before anybody casts judgment on my mom, my dad was, and probably is, a piece of human garbage who abused me and allowed me to be abused a few years after this. So I'm 1000% fine with my mom's decision. She's my favorite person in the world, and every single day I am so lucky to have her in my life. My dad cheated on my mother while she was going through cancer treatments. My mother asked for a divorce. He said go and take the kids. Every Valentine's Day I would receive flowers from my dad and get so happy. My mom would smile and nod and get excited with me. I would call him and thank him. He never sent me flowers. It was my mom all the years. Same thing with birthday cards and Christmas gifts from him. They were never from him. My mom just put his name on them in similar handwriting. Went as far as writing return addresses on mail too. My mom was a superhero of a single parent. We hit the lottery for $12.5 million and nobody in our family, including our children, has any idea. Besides us and the government. The only other people who know is an attorney we hired to keep our identities private, as well as an accountant. We have kept our lives pretty normal. We both work, so there looks like there's an income coming in. We both enjoy what we do and didn't want to have anything change drastically. We just didn't want to ruin our relationships with everyone or spoil our kids. We have it safely invested for their futures, but not until they establish themselves on their own without any idea that there is a safety net. We support numerous charities. It's a blessing to win, but a bigger blessing not to be destroyed by money. Obviously this isn't my real name, which would defeat the whole purpose. I'm the child. I recently found out about the murder suicide attempt my great-grandmother tried to commit on her family. Her daughter, my grandmother, survived the attack and some years later moved to Canada as a teen and eventually got married and had my dad. Pretty haunting. Money is tighter than I'd like it to be. My daughter's Easter gift this year is a brand new expensive hair straightener that somebody else gave me as payback for doing them a favor. My son's Easter gift this year is a Lego set from my childhood. My mom kept most of our stuff in good shape in original boxes. Edit. Some people really don't like the idea of something other than candy or chocolate as an Easter gift. It's cool. All you'll do while things.